This starts off a little different to the other carvings in that I kind of know the design I want, but I'm mostly just improvising the face here because I've carved so many faces before. Just kind of, now and then I just don't go with the design, I just feel like doing whatever I want. And I think that's a good thing about wood spirits, you can kind of just, everyone has a different style and different way of doing it, you can just do whatever you want. I always start off by isolating the nose at the beginning and trying to make it so that that little dot on the tip of the nose there is one of the highest, if not the highest point on the whole carving. Because, obviously the nose sticks out further than everything else. The rules are a little different, I guess, when you're doing it relief. But I still try and make it stick out a bit further than most of the other parts of the carving. So now I'm just kind of rounding over the edges, making it look more like a nose sticking out a bit further and getting those little kind of ridges on the sides of the nose. Then I'm cutting out all the surrounding kind of background. I guess it's not really background, it's more the curve of the face. If you imagine a wood spirit, usually you would do it on like a log that's curved around, or the corner of a piece of wood, because the corner of the piece of wood is great to have as the nose sticking out. It's a really good starting point. So when you're doing it flat like this, I think it's nice to try and emulate the curve of the tree or the corner of that wood that you would get. A lot of the time, I myself get confused with the eyes, and so the way I always start off is to make each eye like a little mound with a valley going all the way around it. If you imagine it like a little, kind of like a hill. So it's a hill coming off the wood with a little valley, a little channel cut all the way around the outside edge. Then I curve them down to give them a bit more of a curve to make them look even more like a kind of little hill. And then I work on the eyelids, which is basically just the outline of the eye. If you draw the outline of an eye, then that's where the eyelid begins, and all the stuff inside that is the eyeball. And then when you've made that eyeball there, when you've surrounded it around the outside edge, you can work on curving it down even more, like here, especially in the corners, where it kind of goes backwards into the head. And if you do that, then your eyes are probably going to look a lot better. Then let's work on curving the top part of the head. And this is just to make it uniform with the rest, really, to kind of make it look like it's on the side of a tree, rather than on a flat piece of wood. And that's been kind of the challenge with a lot of these relief carvings, to make them look like they're not just a flat piece of wood with a pattern kind of etched into them, but rather, make them stand out a bit more, make them pop out from the material a little bit. That's always tricky when it comes to relief carving. For the eyebrows, I just wanted a little indication of tiny little hairs, so I took my smallest gouge and just took some really light cuts in the direction that the hairs would go. And I was quite happy with that. I think it looked quite nice. It was kind of little subtle eyebrows for a change. Then I did the kind of forehead wrinkles, just cutting a straight line with the bendy boy and then kind of making it so there's a V cut in there so they stand out a bit more, or certain areas of it stand out a little bit more. The moustache and beard was quite a kind of standard one, so I decided to make the moustache really massive because I don't usually do that. And since we're not seeing much of the beard because it's kind of off the bottom end of the carving just because of the space that we have on this one, I decided to make the moustache more prominent. So I always start with the mouth, make that little upside down V to show an indication where the mouth is, and then make this kind of beard part lower than the moustache part. Then I just work on making the moustache look like it's going down into the face and then bulging back out like it's really big full moustache full of lots of hair, And basically after that it's just the same thing over and over again, trying to make it look like this moustache is big and coming out of the head. Hair I always find is a really, really tricky thing, and I still haven't quite got used to doing hair. There's so many different styles and ways to do it, but I haven't really found one or settled on one yet that I'm happy with. So what I do is I make the general shape there, as you can see, and then I start carving little, wavy lines in there where I imagine the hair might go. I'm sure I can make this look a lot better if I, studied hair a lot more and thought about it a bit more, but for the sake of this, we're just doing it the way that I felt like doing it at the time. And I think a lot of carving comes down to that, just the way you feel about doing it at the time. And also, I think wood spirits in general, as I said at the beginning, are a really good way to just kind of feel for your style and the way you want to create stuff. Now when it came to the eyes, I wasn't able to make them in the way I normally like eyes, which is to make the pupil stick out prominently rather than have it carved out as like a hole. Most of the times when I do my eyes like that, I get a few people saying, oh, this isn't how they used to do it in the old statues, the eye should be taken back because the pupil's really dark. But I myself find having the pupil sticking forward is a lot more interesting. I think it makes the eyes a bit more piercing, but I put these dots on here and I didn't like it. So I changed it. So as you can see, I kind of carved away those eyes at the end there because I didn't like them. And the end of this video is going to be a little bit different to the others because I'm now going to take this up to the top shed just to sand down all these really rough edges with the electric sander, then come back here, sand around all the front parts just to get it a bit smoother. I was considering carving it, but then I thought that might take away from the carvings a little bit, so we're going to try and keep it flat and just sand it down a bit, and then we're going to oil the whole board. So that'll be pretty cool. So let's do the sanding first and then come back and do the oiling. So now that I've got the oil on there again, I want to hang it up on the wall, and in order to get the hanging in the right place, generally what I do is to measure halfway here and then just tap a little nail in there, and then I'll just let it kind of balance on my finger and see if it's holding well or not. If it's like off a little bit, then I'll move the nail in the direction that it has to go and just keep testing it, because you know, if it's just a square block of wood, I could probably just, you know, put it in the center, it'd be fine. But with something like this, where you've carved all different parts out of it, it's hard to know where the weight is. So it might be slightly to one side or another. I found that with a few of my other carvings, like that one up there, for example. So we just have to keep doing a bit of trial and error till we find the sweet spot. It looks pretty good. My mate Bram actually asked me how I felt at the end of doing this after the 30 days, and I feel a bit sad that it's not going on, but also at the same time it's excellent to see the board completed. I'm really happy to see it completed. So bittersweet, I guess, is what people say, right? There's some good bits and some bad bits. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and of course a massive thanks to the patrons. More stuff coming up soon. I really appreciate you all very much, and I will catch you later.